I will be releasing an X-Haven video to give you a tour of its features.
So I said I was going to release a Frosthaven, well, X-Haven video, and in my Welcome to Frosthaven video, and I never did. So I'm now putting it together. So have fun. So very first thing we're going to do is, as we go to set scenario, you need to make sure that you're set to Frosthaven. But if you are playing Jaws of the Lion or Gloomhaven, etc., this is where you access it. So under set scenario, you've got all the different versions of whichever haven you're actually playing, and just select the right one. In our case, it's Frosthaven, so we're going to pick Frosthaven. And then you're going to want to set the scenario. I'm going to select scenario 0, which is not really a spoilery one. I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it's in the... I don't know. Either way. So whenever you set a scenario, if there are monsters on the board, like during setup, it immediately is going to prompt you and say, hey, do you want to just populate these now with the standee numbers? So in our case right now, we've got number 2 and number 4 on the board. The board is off to the side. The board doesn't exist. I'm not setting this up. And then that's pretty much everything you've gotten. Now, something I've noticed that you will see throughout your campaign, I guess, of using X-Haven is these prompts. See this blue bar down the bottom, blue-green? This one just says masteries cannot be completed in this scenario. And any special rules or any prompts that are meant to remind you of certain things, that's usually where it'll appear. So whenever you do scenario 0, you can't actually do your masteries with this particular scenario. And it's just reminding you of that. So we can just click it to dismiss it. So now that you've got that, we're going to start adding some characters. So on the left-hand side, you've got your actual menu. And over here, we're going to add a character. So we're going to add, let's just say, whatever your party composition currently is made up of. So I'm going to go Banner Spear. You can set the level. If you're starting from scratch, it's going to be level 1. I mean, play your own way, I guess. You can actually set your max health, which by default is set to what it's supposed to be, which is 10. And then you can change your name if you want to. And you can continue to do that for every player. So we'll add these 3. So we've got a Drifter, a Bone Shaper, and Banner Spear, all starters. I was just making sure that the rest are spoiled out. And then, yeah, you've pretty much got everything you need to begin the scenario. So let's have a look at the layout. So like I was saying earlier, you've got your menu on the side. This is where you select which scenario. You can also add section events. You can add characters. It will remove characters. Set the level of the scenario. You've got a loot deck menu. You can add monsters or remove them. And you can also show an ally modified deck for scenarios with an ally. Now, generally in scenarios, it will automatically set that for you for scenarios that do have an ally in there, but you can optionally choose to just add the deck in any scenario for whatever reason. We found that useful, I think, once or twice. I can't remember. In the center, you've obviously got where all of the players and the monsters' information is going to be, including where they're going to sit in initiative during any given active round, as well as a quick glance on how much health everyone has, how much health the monsters have, which standees are still up. You've got your monster stat cards similar to this, the monster stat cards, the physical versions that slide into the sleeve, and this will be updated depending on the actual difficulty. You've got a quick glance at XP and a quick glance at level. So that's just more at a quick glance for players and monsters. You have the loot deck, which is located just down here. So whenever you click whenever you loot a card and you're required to draw a card, you can actually click this. This is automated as well. So every scenario has the correct shuffled loot deck for that scenario. So another thing you never have to worry about. So that's the loot deck down the bottom. Here you actually have the round tracker. This is really handy when you are knee deep in a scenario and you're not sure how much further you're expected to survive. You can see usually how many rounds have passed to get an idea of how far into a particular scenario you are. Sometimes there are scenarios that use a tracker, like survive a certain amount of rounds, or by round blah 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 something happens. So that's where you'll see it down here. That is also where you would basically hit the start round button, which is the draw button, and also next round. But we'll go over that a little bit later. You've actually got down here your actual scenario information. So this is just purely as a reference. It's just letting you know what scenario you're currently doing, as well as any of the modifiers down the bottom. So right now it's explaining to us that this is a scenario level 1. So the monsters will be level 1 as a result of it, and therefore everything else is going to be calculated based on that number. So trap damage is 3 at level 1, hazardous terrain damage is 2 damage for hazardous terrain, you're going to get plus 6 XP for completing the scenario successfully, and then each coin is worth $2. that's just a quick glance, and you can also click on that to change the difficulty. The one in circle, the one that's circled is the one that's recommended for you based on your party's levels, whereas you can increase or decrease that to get more or less of a challenge. And when you do that, it does increase. And when you do that, yes, it does increase the actual things that I mentioned earlier. So right now we're at scenario level 3, and traps are hitting harder. Hazardous terrain is still the same. I think it's the next level up, it goes up, but you get more XP and you get more coin. But as a result, the monsters have more health. So the hounds actually had 4 health before, now they have 8. And they probably move faster and hit slightly harder. It's like the stat sheet scaling, basically. In the center here is where you'll have your section toggles. This is when a scenario already has built into it. X-Haven's already taken care of a lot of it, where, you know, in the scenario, the section may say, once door 1 is opened, read this section. Well, those sections are linked to these buttons down here, and sometimes you get heaps of them, and sometimes you get very few. So there's obviously one for this scenario, and when you click it, it will automatically populate whatever happens in that section, if it can, into X-Haven. If not, it will guide you as to what to do. But it's basically a handy way of saying, oh, you're opening that door. Here are all the monsters you're going to need. It just saves a bit of time. Bottom right-hand corner, you've got your monster AMD. This is handy for getting absolutely wrecked by RNG and then blaming it on that thing down there. You can actually go into the deck and alter it. I'll show you that a little bit later, but it's all going to be displayed down here, as well as the most recent card and maybe a little bit of the one before that, so that you can reference it if you need to. And at the top right-hand corner, finally, we have our elements. So element trackers, you've got the board in the actual game with the little element wooden pieces that move across to waning and strong and inert. Up here, it's represented up here. So you can actually click the actual icons to actually make them strong or not. And you can hold them to actually make it like halfway. So for example, if we just finished a round and I'm like, oh, silly me, I was meant to make fire. You can actually hold down half button and set it to the waning side so that I know it's only got 1 round before it disappears. And that is at a glance, just roughly how to navigate the actual X-Haven app. So the next thing we're going to do is have a look closer into sort of the character and monster information, such as something as simple as adding new monsters. So you will see these giant pluses on the screen. This is usually a sign of you can add something. In the case of human players, we can actually add our summons. So you can actually pick a color to represent the actual summon. You can choose what level it's going to, what standee it's going to be. And then you can choose one of your many various summons. And you can just basically choose how much max health they're supposed to have. And there they are, they slot there. If we click on the monster one, let's just say that it's asking you to spawn another hound. You can click the left-hand side for a normal hound, or you can click the right-hand side for a elite one. So you just click on it and it tells you which standee would you like to add. Let's add number 3. You can also add whether or not it's summoned. If the rules in the actual game are if it's summoned, it doesn't actually have a turn. So by clicking summoned and then 6, you can see it's actually got the summoning token over it instead, and it's grayed out, meaning that it can't act this round. So nice little difference between spawning something and summoning something. If you go into a character, you are brought up with this little screen here, which allows you to adjust the health. And you can see that the actual health there is adjusting. So let's just say I take 3 damage. I would reduce my health by 3, which is reflected up there. And you can see my now new health total, 7 out of 10. You can track your XP here. So remember, we have that little reference, quick glance XP. This is where you can increase or decrease your XP. And then, of course, you've got all of your conditions on the side. You've got another one over here. This is for an expansion, so we'll probably get rid of that because we don't actually need that. You can exhaust yourself. If you remove from the game for any reason, or you just exhausted, you can do that and you'll grey out, and it won't automatically expect your initiative or you to do anything. But we'll undo that. You've got your level, so you can actually change your name, and remember when we set up the character, that information is still here, so you can still access all of that. And then of course on the right hand side, you've got all of your conditions. So if I'm immobilized, I can show that with the actual immobilize button. Same thing with poison, so that everyone can see, the drift is immobilized and he has poison on him. So we're going to jump into a very quick round flow. So let's just put all this back at full. So this looks nice. We've just made things a little bit harder. Let's all put it in our initiatives. So the spot next to the name is the area where you put your initiatives. So we're going to click over here. Now in the options, there's an options to actually enable soft keypad, I think it's called. Let's see, soft numpad for input. So soft numpad for input allows you to do everything with just the mouse. You don't have to use the keyboard to actually type in numbers. So if you've got a wireless mouse and you've got a computer set up over there, which is kind of what we've got and with our setup, this is what all we generally use is just the mouse. So you can actually click on that little spot over there and put everyone's initiative in. So get everyone to select their cards, everyone calls them out. The bone shaper says, I'm going at my fastest, which is 79, which sounds about right. The Banisphere says, I'm going at 25, same as a drifter. So everyone's got their initiative set in. Once everyone has them in, you can click the draw button down the bottom left-hand corner. It's going to automatically draw the monster ability deck and reveal everyone's initiatives to each other, if you didn't know that already. And then it's going to put everything in initiative order. Now, here's the thing. Drifter and Banisphere have both drawn on initiative. So basically they look at their second card and then compare that. And the faster of the two, let's just say it was the Banispheres going first. If you need to reorder any of this, oh wow, I just noticed they beat out on the Hounds. If you need to reorder any of this, you can actually click and hold and actually move these around so that you can change the ordering. Items can do this. There are items out there that can change your initiative order, or you may have put the wrong initiative number in to what you were intending to do. So click and drag them around, just makes things a little bit cleaner. So right now we're starting off with the Banisphere. So the Banisphere's got the lowest initiative, so he's going to start their turn. So the Banisphere is going to do a bunch of stuff, and it's going to hit number 3 and does an attack and draws a +2, so it does 4 damage. So we're going to reduce the Hound's health by 4. Now, on the right-hand side of the stat card, you can see these little shimmery little numbers. It's very subtle, but this is just almost like a little maybe reminder that there's an innate ability on the monster. In this case, it's Retaliate 2. So let's just say the Banisphere did not use was next to the Hound that it was attacking. It's just a reminder that even though you did hit this for 4 damage, you're going to have to remove that Banisphere by 2 because we hit the elite. Once the Banisphere is done and they've increased their XP or done whatever they've needed to do and put a condition on something, so let's just use a wound. Their turn is done. Just before that though, make sure your summon works. They're above the character so that it's a reminder from left to right also that you activate your summons before you activate yourself. Banisphere is done. Drifter up next. Drifter does something similar, except he's going to walk up to, let's say, number 6, and he's going to hit it for 3, and he's going to apply a stun, and I don't know. We'll go with a stun. So he goes up and hits that one there. Good work. Does a bit of damage. This is a normal wolf or hound, so it's got 1 retaliate, so Drifter's going to take 1 damage from that. Mind you, this is only because it's melee retaliate, so it's not ranged, so it doesn't always trigger if you're range shooting, but that's the rules. So as long as you're on top of that, it won't be an issue. Drifter's done. Cool. So every time you're done, they grade out so that you can see whose turn or what's turn it is. So as soon as we switch to the Hound, see what happens just over here. That's a reminder. So the little wound wiggles, and just don't forget the wound is on, and at the beginning of whatever turn that has wound on it, it takes a damage. So it's just a reminder. It doesn't do it automatically. It's just a reminder to you to do it. And then you would activate them left to right from, in initiative order, right? So the elite's going to go and it does its thing. It does damage to people. So it just munches on the bone shaper and applies a wound to the bone shaper. And then number 6 is going to go, but number 6 is stunned. Number 2 is going to go. Number 4 is going to go. And then that's it. So right now they're moving 2 and attacking 2. Once they're done, click off them. This is a reminder that the Bone Shaper needs to take a damage because it's now wounded, and now the Bone Shaper can have its turn and do whatever it needs to do. So we just give it some XP. It gets 5 XP because that's what it gets per summon. At least that's my experience watching Bone Shapers play. They're just like, oh, look at all this XP. Bone Shaper does it, done. Everything's grayed out. We're all good to move on to the next round. Round 1 done. Next round. Perfect. And it just reorders them based on just separating them from players to monsters so that you can see everything nice and clearly. So that's the general gist of kind of how X-Haven kind of works. It makes it much easier so that you're not flipping those cards. You would have seen that move 2, attack 2 card had a little refresh icon. So because we've gone into the next round, it's shuffled that a monster ability deck already automatically for you. And yeah, we're ready to basically start another round, and you just keep going through this until you either win or lose the scenario. Now, something you can do also is you can connect your mobile phones or other devices with Xhaven running to your computer that's running the Xhaven that everyone may be looking at. So for example, if we go up into our menus and we actually start a host server, you have an IP there showing the IP that you'll need to give to the other devices to be able to connect to this. So we're going to click start server. All right, so I'm going to switch over to Xhaven on the phone and try and connect to that. So on the menu on the left-hand side, I'm going to connect to that IP that we just saw. You should be able to find that in your settings. This is just a quicker way of dealing with it. But we're going to connect to the client, and oh look, it automatically updates everything to what we're seeing currently on the screen. Now, this also means that I can control absolutely everything from the app instead of using the mouse, and it just allows other players to control whether or not they're gaining XP or they're healing. It kind of allows everyone to contribute to the admin of running the scenario. But one of the things I like about it is there's no longer this need to call out your initiative or waiting for other people once you've got your card selected. So let's just say I'm the banner shaper, the banner spear. I'm going to put my initiative in. Let's just say it's that. And of course, yeah, there it is. So this is notifying everyone that the banner spear is good to go and has put their initiative in, but no one knows what it is. Now you can still do your loose connection, your loose communication around I'm going quickly or when are you going, etc. Whatever your group does, you can still do that. But yeah, this allows everyone to keep their initiatives hidden until the big reveal. So let's just say the drifter does the same thing. Once everyone's got their initiatives in, it looks something like this. And then we can come down here and click draw. And there we have it. It orders everything nice and easily. And as we rush to the banner spear's turn, let's just say now I can control everything on my phone. So it should start to appear on the screen. Let's say we're going to finish off Hound number 3 with a big attack, and we're doing 4 damage. So it's dead. It only has 3 health. We don't get retaliated on. Let's remove it, and it falls off. So yeah, that's pretty much the fundamentals to just at least running a scenario. There are a couple of little tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way, which was like the moving one around, which is I guess pretty obvious, or the half clicking an element to actually get it to half, like sorry, click and hold on it to get it to the actual halfway mark. There's a faster way of reducing the health, which is when you mouse hold, left click and hold on it. You can actually just very quickly, if you are good at this, just to very quickly increase and decrease the health. This has never really worked for us because it just feels clunky and people accidentally just do this and delete stuff. Wait, does it bring it back? Oh, it does bring it back. Hey, it's alive. We've got an undo button up the top. Right now it's just saying increase the banner spear's health by 3 because we just oh yeah, so it's just, yeah, okay, so it's killing it. So yeah, you get your undo button over there. There are a couple of special rules in future scenarios that may involve looking into a monster's ability deck. So that can be done when you click on the actual monster ability deck. This is giving you oh god, this is not a good example because there's already got one. Let's add one. So let's just break the rules a little bit. Let's add a monster. So we're going to add a monster. We're going to add an Algox guard. We're going to populate it with a normal one. Fantastic. No, nothing there. Okay, cool. So now we're going to click on the actual monster ability deck, and these are all 8 of their cards. So this allows you to see pretty much what their deck looks like and the ordering of what's going to happen. So sometimes the game will actually instruct you to reveal the top card of the monster ability deck. This is how you would do that. You would actually go into the actual monster deck and you can click on the reveal 1 button up here, and that will actually reveal so you can actually see what it is. If we come out of this, we actually doesn't affect anything on the board, but if you go back into it, you can see that it's unrevealed itself. You can go back to reveal it again, or you can do it for the second card as well, and re-hide them. You can also reveal all of them if you absolutely need to. You can remove a card by clicking on it and removing it. This removes it, I believe, out of the deck completely, so just be careful with that you have a good reason to doing that. You can draw an extra card for any reason, and you can shuffle. So you can do all of that with the monster ability cards if you need to alter it in some way due to some special rule. Same thing with the ability deck for the monsters down the bottom, which I didn't even show an attack earlier, which that's how the monster ability cards work, but I'm pretty sure that would have been worked out by itself. If you click on the actual cards down here, it gives you a history of what the actual monster, what they've drawn from their AMD. So you can kind of see if you've messed something up and something was meant to have initiative, not initiative, advantage. You can backtrack a little bit to see what card would have been a part of which attack, so that you can fix up the health as to what you needed. You can add your blesses and curses into the deck here, so you can fill them up with blesses, and that would just basically elongate how long this is. Yes, so now we're up to 27, so we should start to see a lot more. There we go, there's a bless and curse, yeah. So you can actually go in here to remove -1 cards or -2 cards. You can add a -1 card. There are a couple of options, and you can also reveal, because there are things that will actually do similar to the monster ability deck. It's the monster AMD. You can do a reveal to actually see if an item allows you to see what the top card is, or the top couple of cards are for the monster ability deck, so you can plan accordingly. Finally, let's look into some of the settings. So if we head down to the actual settings mode, you've got dark mode. This just is a visual thing. You decide what you what feels better. Soft non-pad for input, which is what we were doing earlier for putting these in. This also, I think, does it for the set scenario. Yep, it does. So really handy if you're wanting to not have a keyboard. Don't ask for initiative. This is more for when you, at the very beginning, right now, Drifter and Bannerspear doesn't have an initiative currently set in. The Bone Shaper does, but you can still draw. Whereas if you had that set off, don't ask for initiative, and we go next round, and I try the draw, it's going to say, we need to set some initiatives here. What are you trying to do? Expire conditions is really handy for conditions that will expire at the end of the round. So for example, if we were, let's just turn off that initiative thing so that I can fly through this a little bit faster. So let's just say this Algox Guard has a stun on him. All right, we're going to draw our cards. We do our turns. He's stunned. He doesn't do anything. So we now move to the hounds. We click off him. The stun's gone. So it automatically expires any of the conditions that would end at the end of a player or monster's turn. There's auto add time spawns. So during some scenarios when it's like in round 3 and round 6, spawn this, the app automatically, with this checked, can notify you of that and help you organize that. Without that, you'll just have to be a little bit more switched into what's actually happening to make sure you don't miss that timing. Random standees, I believe, is when you add a monster, it's just going to spawn a monster with random standees. Yeah, I haven't actually tried that, so, but it did what I thought. But I prefer to add our own standees. No calculation. So the actual cards themselves look like this. Really, this, because it's scenario 0, the hound is not going to have the right card that from a hound deck. It's a tutorial mission, but we'll use the actual Algox Guard as an example. So right now, with no calculations, the card is literally going to be printed basically identically to what the physical card is going to say. It's going to say it's going to do a shield +1 and a retaliate 2. With no calculations turned off, it's giving you the total, because it doesn't actually have any shield. So if it's saying the card is saying shield +1, it's then going to be 1 shield. Same thing with retaliate. If it had a 1 shield innate into it, and then the shield +1 came up, this card would instead say shield 2. So it's automatically calculating it. It's just like movement. If we look at a different card, actually no, that's not what I want to do. I want to no calculation. So if we look further into their deck, we can see that they all look like this. So calculated strike is saying move -1 and then attack +1, which is normal, that we'd normally used to seeing. But if we click on the uncheck the no calculations, we want it to calculate it for us, and then we go back in there and we reveal them again. Calculated strike is now saying movement 2, 3, depending on normal or elite, or and then followed by an attack 5 or 6. So it's automatically calculated the plus or the minus on the ability card to the stats of the monster and just made it nice and clean. So this is made it so much quicker to look up, and you just follow what's on the card. They're going to move 2, 3, 5, 6. You don't have to go back here and say, oh, but they've got a movement of 3, 4. It just automatically calculates everything for you. It's brilliant. You can hide the loot deck. It's a visual thing if it's in the way or there's no loot, or you want to play with the loot deck manually. You can get rid of it so you can get some screen clutter. The shimmers are on the innates that I was talking about earlier, so that is that's more, do you want it or not? I mean, now it just looks like that. The shimmer just gives it a little oomph to help you reminder. for people who may forget about Retaliate. Show scenario names on this is just literally a spoiler thing, so you can see all the actual names, which some people may find as a spoiler or not, so you can actually show the names. Show custom content. Custom content is for some of the expansions, some of the things like conditions and all of that the monsters have brought in, like this a chill effect over here, or this poison with a 2 on it, or whatever the hell that's supposed to be, or that. So if we were to sit here and say, look, can we not show custom content, all of a sudden a lot of that is now cleaned up for the type of game that you're playing, which all those symbols now make sense to me. That was something that took me forever to work out. Sections of the main screen are the little boxes down here. You can disable or remove them. Show around special rules reminder. I like to keep all of these on because in case we forget something, it's just better to have something show, and show the attack modifier decks as well. Now, you can also scale everything. So from depending on the size of your screen or what everyone's looking at, you can make things bigger or smaller to fit more things. So sometimes you may want a bit of a side-by-side. So you've got things queued on the left and queued on the right-hand side, which is pretty cool. And you can also scale those bars. So make everything big and chunky. You can pretty much scale it however you want. And that ultimately is pretty much everything I know when it comes to X-Haven and how to use it. If you know a lot of tips or tricks or something that you think could be very valuable to someone else, share them in the comments. Let everyone else know what you've discovered. Because if we can keep this to be an X-Haven kind of chat and it's an useful resource for some people, that'll be fantastic. Feel free to also ask me any questions that I may not have covered in this. I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to record a tutorial because it's kind of all over the place in my head, but I hope this can at least help someone somewhere and yeah, contribute to the tips below, and hopefully we can find some more little secrets and tidbits that can help someone out. Thanks so much.